Everyone is having a great new moon day today, so I hope everyone's enjoying Yahuah's new moon today. So we are going to be doing a study that Yahuah has been leading me to do for a while. I believe it's one of the key titles, or you could even say compound names of Yahusha pre-incarnate that we kind of overlook, or we just think, oh, that's just the Father. And in your modern Bibles, and please forgive me, brothers and sisters, for using the incorrect terminology here, but I'm trying to explain to people that will have like English Bibles that don't have the correct terminology. So like when you see, like if you have a KJV, ESV, NLT, whatever, and it says like all caps Lord and then has God attached to it as a compound name. Okay, so in the correct Hebrew, that would be Yahuah Alahim, Yahuah Aluah as a name, not Alahim of Israel. So I want to make there's a clear distinction, because people are going to think I'm saying every time it says the Alahim of Israel. No, I'm talking about when it's a name, when you have Yahuah and then the title Elohim or Alahim attached to it. There's times in scripture where it won't just say Yahuah, it will say Yahuah Alahim said this, or so on and so forth. So that's the compound name we're going to talk about today, how I believe Yahuah has given me this understanding to understand this was actually a name for Yahusha HaMashiach in the Tanakh, pre-incarnate. So we're going to talk about that. And just to explain, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand this Christian terminology, pre-incarnate. Basically, to sum it up, the doctrine of incarnation is the basic biblical principle of a deity taking on human flesh. That's what incarnation is. So that's what Yahuah did in John 1:1. He sent the Word, who is himself, who is Yahuah himself, became a human. Incarnation. That's I don't want people to confuse that with reincarnation. Not the same thing. So, but this concept, to understand John 1:1, it's imperative to understand all these different titles and compound names that the Son Yahusha had in the Tanakh. So it's imperative to understand that. And what's going to be helping me show you guys proof of this are these. They are called the Targums. They are paraphrase Aramaic interpretive versions of the Torah. So what these are is like, you have a translation, right? And then you have a commentary on the bottom of the page, usually in your Bible, right? Like that's how Bibles are. You'll have the translation, the actual scripture, and then commentary where the footnotes are usually. The Targums, what they do is it's scripture plus commentary. And sometimes, even when there's not commentary, they paraphrase it to give you a definition translation rather than a literal word for word transliteration. So, and we're going to see here how they understood who this Yahuah Alahim person is. Mind you, these Targums orally were passed down according to tradition before Messiah came to earth. It's important to know that as well. By tradition, they believe that these would have came about sometime after Ezra and Nehemiah's generation came back from Babylon. So according to Jewish tradition, they believe from between Ezra and Nehemiah's generation, between their generation and Yahusha's generation around 1 AD, that between that gap of time, you had these Targums being orally passed down, not written yet, but were orally passed down. They were oral traditional versions of the Torah. So, and you'll see how for this topic, they are imperative. And by the way, they are, some sects in Judaism today do, or at least one sect I know of, considers them liturgy in their own sect of Judaism. So they are authoritative to certain people in Judaism. So that's the reason I'm going to be using them to prove without any bias whatsoever, because these guys that wrote the Targums we have today, there's no proof that they even accepted Yahusha as the Messiah. So I'm going to show evidence of my belief of Yahusha being Yahuah Alahim in the Tanakh from a, mind you, a Judean source, not even a Christian source. Okay. So again, that's mainly why I'm using these for support. So without any further ado, we're going to go to the document here. We're going to go to the study here. When we end, we'll also give you guys a little bit of historical, traditional info that is added support to why I believe Yahusha is the person called Yahuah, Aluah, Yahuah Alahim in the Tanakh. So yeah, here we go. So this study is going to be called Yahuah Aluah equals the word of Yahuah. So I'm going to be showing you guys proof that the same person known as the word of Yahuah is Yahuah Aluah of the Tanakh. Okay. All right. So, and it was kind of hard to find a lot of witnesses. I found about 13 cross references. So it's not going to be that long of a study. Whoops. Hold on, guys. My shared screen is acting up. Zoom, why you gotta give me problems? All right. Oh, I was trying to get my share audio on here. Okay, so we're gonna go in Google Docs. Yahuah Aluah equals the word of Yahuah. 13 witnesses in the Targums. Okay, 13 times you can see this connection. So we're first gonna go to the Targum Onkelos, which, by the way, is the most literal word for word Targum you're going to find out there with no commentary practically in it. So we're going to go to the Targum Onkelos. I have a physical copy here that I will be reading from. So we're first going to go to Genesis 3:6, which I believe would be 3:8 in your Masoretic and Septuagint Bibles. Just FYI. So follow along with me, Genesis 3:6 or 3:8, depending on your translation. Okay, I'm going to show you how it reads here. In the Targum Onkelos, it says, and they heard the voice of the word of Yahuah Aluah walking in the garden in the evening of the day. Adam and his wife hid themselves from before Yahuah Aluah among the trees of the garden. So this is extremely important here, because what is it identifying? It's identifying the person that we know as the word of Yahuah, which we know according to Revelations 19, right? Who's the word of Yahuah, Yahusha. This Targum here is identifying Yahuah Alahim, Yahuah Aluah as the word of Yahuah in Genesis 3:6 here. And it's actually basically saying that Yahusha was the one that was calling to Adam and Kua after they sinned. And then you go into the next verse, it says Yahuah Aluah called to Adam and said to him, where are you? And if you want confirmation, you can even go to verse 8 in the chapter of the Onkelos as well. It says, Adam said to him, the voice of your word I heard in the garden. And I was afraid because I was naked and I would hide. And mind you, I want to keep reiterating, guys, the authors of these Targums, the majority of them were not believers in Yahusha. There's no agenda here. They, in their own tradition, had this concept of the word of Yahuah being Yahuah Aluah. They had it in their own tradition. So I just want to make that clear, because I know some people will say, oh, well, that could be the translator. No, it's not. Every translation of these Targums will have it read like that. It's they had this concept before Yahusha came to earth. That's why I believe that's why Yahusha said what he said to the Pharisees. Most likely the Pharisees knew these Targums, held to these Targums with some type of esteem, and that's why Yahusha said what he said to them. That's why he said, I am the true bread of heaven. I am the living word. Yahusha probably was trying to use their own lingo against them, try to show them who he really was. But anyway, now I'm gonna go to, and actually, I didn't realize this, but I also had a second witness here for verse 6 here from another Targum, and this is the pseudo Jonathan one, which has a lot more commentary, but in this particular verse, it seems like there's not much commentary in it. So we're going to look at verse 6 from a second witness here of Genesis 3. Okay, so it says here, in the pseudo Jonathan Targum, it reads in Genesis 3. Let's see here. I might have. Yeah, I think I miscited this verse here. It should actually be verse 8, not verse 6. My bad about that. So let me just change that real quick, guys. I apologize for that. So it's Genesis 3:8 in the pseudo Jonathan one. It says here, and they heard the voice of the word of Yahuah, Aluah, walking in the garden. So again, this concept of them understanding that Yahuah or Yahuah Aluah is the same person as the word of Yahuah is very obvious in their tradition here, in their own versions of the Torah. So that's one of our 13 witnesses. We're going to go to another one. Genesis 3:9 in the Jerusalem Targum, which is very fragmented. It's one of the very fragmented ones that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay. Let's see here. So Jerusalem Targum, Genesis 3, verse 9. Okay. So mind you, we're seeing these witnesses just from one chapter of Genesis, mind you. Okay. All right. So here it says in verse 9, walking in the strength of the day, talking about, Adam. And the word of Yahuah called to Adam, said to him, behold, the world which I have created is manifest before me. And how do you think that you would, how did you think the place in the midst where you are is not revealed before me? Where is the commandment that I taught you? I kind of like how it paraphrases that rather than, what do most of them say, Mom? Like, where are you, Adam? Mm-hmm. So it's one of the positives about the Targums too, is they'll paraphrase and give you the meaning of these idioms, like, where are you, Adam? Like in the Hebrew culture, they would never understand that as Yahuah is actually asking Adam where he is. No. That's the point there. So like there's idioms in the scriptures we don't even understand fully, like kicking against the prods, this and that, so the Targums can, as a cultural version of the Torah, of the scriptures, they're very good in expounding. It's almost like a liturgy Bible is what the Targums really are. They're giving you expoundings. Okay. So
to expound on that real quick, it makes that actually makes total sense, because if he says, where are you at, or where are you, it's if his word and his Torah, is referred to as a path, as a way, as the narrow path, and the Targum expounds on saying, where is the commandment that I gave you, it kind of makes sense, because like, where are you at? Did you turn away to the left? Did you turn away to the right? Why are you not here on this path? Like,
yeah.
Why aren't you obeying my commands? Makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Exactly. So what Brother Yahusha just expounded there perfectly is that the way to a Hebrew or an Eastern person in general, you talk to an Arabic, talk to an Indian, like a person that's from India, they have no problem understanding this. We have a problem understanding this because we're a Western culture. We just change the way, we're just thinking, so physical. So everything's got to be physical. Everything's got to be just physical and literally on the surface. But to a Hebrew, the way has to do with how you live your life, the way. There's a lot of idioms in the scriptures that we don't fully understand because we don't come from that type of culture and all that. So yeah, great point, bro. verse 10, same chapter. Mind you guys, we found already what 3-4 witnesses just in one chapter in Bereshit here. We haven't even left Bereshit yet. Okay. Genesis 3 verse 10 in the Targum Onkelos. So back to the literal word for word one. Okay. Genesis 3 verse 10 says, and Adam said, the woman whom you gave me to be with me, gave to me of the tree, and I did eat. And so I'm trying to see if I messed up with that verse there. It might have not been on Onkelos. Hold on a second. Let me look at the other ones. That might have been a miscitation there. Or sometimes I get confused with the verse numberings because they differ from one from another. So let me see here. Genesis 3 might be 3:11 or something like that.
12 is the verse that you just read in the Masoretic.
Yeah, let me just see here. Okay. No, okay. It's the Pseudo-Johnson. Yeah, I miscited it. Okay, so the Pseudo-Johnson one says in Genesis 3:10, the voice of your word. So again, it's calling Yahuah's voice the voice of the word of Yahuah. That's the reason I wanted to point this out here. So it says in verse 10 here in the Pseudo-Jonathan, it says, and he said, the voice of your word I heard in the garden, and I was afraid because I am naked. And the commandment which you did teach me, I have transgressed, therefore I hid myself from shame. So again, the voice of his word. So his word is not just utterance. The word is a person. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that in the Targums a lot. It's hard to see that sometimes in the regular versions of the Tanakh that we have today. But when you look at these paraphrased versions called the Targums, they make it very clear the word of Yahuah is a person. It's not just utterances. It's not just commandments. He's an individual.
Yep.
So that's very important to see there. So, and again, it's calling Yahuah's voice Yahusha's voice, essentially by association. So it's saying the voice of your word I heard in the garden. So again, it's calling Yahuah Aluah, because if you look at the prior verse, it says Yahuah Aluah in verse 9 called to Adam. So Adam is saying the voice he heard was the voice of the word of Yahuah, which is Yahuah Aluah's voice. Genesis 3:22. And we're going to be going now to the Jerusalem Targum. So, and again, guys, I'll give you guys links where you can test these Targums out for yourself. I really recommend Sepharia.org, which is a Jewish website where they have different types of texts. They have like the regular Hebrew Bible and other texts like the Targums. So if you guys want to look this stuff up for yourselves.
Can you, Doug?
Yeah. Yep. What? Yes, sis?
That first word, Sephardic or whatever it was?
Yes, Sepharia.org.
Sepharia. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably the root word. Yeah, it's probably from the Sephardic Jews. They probably get that root word from there. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'll try to put it in the chat here. How to spell it. So that's one of the sites that you can find these for free on, these Targums for free. Let me see here. Let me type this in here. Sepharia.org. And another one, which is more direct, easier to find the Targums on, is Targum.info. And Targum.info is an online resource that gives you basically access to English translation of the Targums. I think I'm trying to remember the guy's name, John Wesley Etheridge. I think it's his translation, which is very similar to the Tove Rose version I'm reading from, the physical version I have in my hand. If I'm not mistaken, Tove Rose, he pretty much he pretty much copied John Wesley Etheridge's translation, pretty much just, made his own edition of it with these paperbacks. So that's what I'm reading from right now. I got 3 different Targums that I'm kind of going back and forth from. So I would recommend Targum.info just because it's easier to navigate with that site. And the great thing about that site is it even has Targums to the Psalms as well. So you can look up Targums to the Psalms. And again, I apologize, guys. I think I miscited this Genesis 3:22. I think it's supposed to be 3:24. I apologize about that. So right here at this bullet point for the Jerusalem Targum, I believe it's supposed to be 3:24 because 3:22 is actually omitted in that Targum. So I think it has to be 3:24. So chapter 3, verse 24 says in the Jerusalem Targum, "And the word of Yahuah Aluah said, Behold Adam, whom I have created, who he created, is soul in my world. As I am soul in the heavens above." Soul in the heavens above. So this is why it's important, and me and Brother Yahusha, we're always preaching this. This is why it's important about who you believe Yahusha is and who you believe Yahuah is. There's only one Aluah. So even in the Targums, you can get that. I am soul in heaven above. That means there's no other mighty ones in heaven above. So you only have the word of Yahuah, who is the true creator.
It says the man has now become like one of us.
Yeah, us, yeah.
It says right there.
Yeah. See, I like how the Targum kind of debunks the whole confusion people get with the plurality, and this is where they get the whole Trinity. Yeah. I have a feeling that the Targums had it right originally, and that later on, especially with the Masoretes, they would want to make it plural and make it, it's us and there's 3 people or 2 or 3 people. Because what you got to understand with the Masoretes too, they would interpret the us in Genesis 1:26, even 2 chapters earlier, as Hashem and the angels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you got to understand about the Masoretes, is that they have all these weird, traditions, and they don't want to believe Yahusha is the other part of the us. I have no problem being us because I understand that there is something in the Hebrew culture called majestic plurality. So I have no problem with it being us because I can understand that, that Yahuah is Yahusha. They're one physical entity, but 2 in role. I have no problem understanding that, but I know some people pick a straw man argument with that, and they'd say, "Oh, well, it says us, so there has to be multiple people," and yada yada yada. So that's what I like about the Targum here, is instead of us, it says the word of Yahuah said this. Behold, Adam, who I have created, is soul in my world, as I am soul, meaning alone, in the heavens above. It is to be that a great people are to arise from him. From him will arise a people who will know how to discern between good and evil. And, it goes through this whole expounding. It's not really, the expounding is not that important. The important part of this is that the word of Yahuah is saying he's alone in heaven above. He's alone. There's no other mighty ones with him. There's no other deities with him. There's one deity in heaven. And, so on.
To your point, I would definitely side with the Targums on this. It's very possible that they had it right. Let's say even if the Septuagint sides with the Masoretic and puts the us, we also have to consider that the Septuagint, even though we're 90% of the time where it's right and it agrees with the DSS, it agrees with the Samaritan Pentateuch, it's still at the same time has been in the hands of the Vatican. And, I can show you proof that there are early 1st century writings that they have taken and they have changed the oneness concept, and they've reworded certain, this is just the early assembly ante-Nicene fathers that they've done this with, but they've taken some of their writings. You can compare 2 different writings side by side, and you can see how the original promotes a oneness concept, while the rewritten, where they've added in and where they've changed things, now promotes a Trinity concept. So if they've done this with, with their writings, I have no problem like believing that they've added things into the Septuagint or they've reworded certain things. I would side with the Targums on this as well.
Yeah, the Jerusalem Targum I'm a big fan of when it comes to this topic. It is very pro oneness, not just in this verse, but Genesis 1:27. The word of Yahuah created man in his likeness, just for another example. So the Jerusalem Targum is a very interesting Targum because it's fragmented like crazy. To me, that's saying that most likely it's one of the oldest, if it's super fragmented. So most likely, maybe, possibly even came, it would date back possibly even to around the original Septuagint, possibly. At least orally, it would have been around. So there's definitely a lot of positives to the Jerusalem Targum. I personally, there's areas like this, I like it over the Pseudo-Jonathan, where the Pseudo-Jonathan seems to make it a little bit more pro-rabbinical Judaism, especially when you get to the whole us of Genesis 1:26. But anyway, yeah, I would agree. So you have Genesis 4:26. Speaking of the Pseudo-Jonathan one, it says in Genesis 4:26, it says, in the name of the word of Yahuah. So now instead of it saying the name of Yahuah Aluah, it says the name of the word of Yahuah, which is interesting. So they're paraphrasing essentially Yahuah Aluah, the name of Yahuah Aluah, as the word of Yahuah. So just show you this verse here, Genesis 4:26. And so it says, and to Seth was also born a son, and he called his name Enosh. That was the generation in those days they began to err and to make themselves idols, and surname their idols by the name of the word of Yahuah. So that's their little expounding. But I would say the important part about that, whether that commentary is true or not about them, making idols and all that, the point of it is, though, that they're paraphrasing in that verse Yahuah Aluah as the word of Yahuah, as the same name even. So obviously, if the word of Yahuah is the same name to them, or they believe the word of Yahuah would be the same exact name as Yahuah Aluah, then it has to be the same person. That's what I would take away from that. Also, let's see here. I think we have another one from Genesis here. We have Genesis chapter 7, verse 16. And they coming entered male and female of all flesh unto him, as Yahuah had instructed him. And the word of Yahuah covered the door of the ark upon the face thereof. Now, I'm just curious, Mom, what does your version say who covered the door of the ark?
Actually, it would be master, because it's capital L, small O-R-D.
And what's after that? Is it all
Nothing.
Is it all capital G-O-D after
No,
that?
it says then the Lord shut him in. There's
Oh no, well the NIV doesn't capitalize that, so it would be Yahuah. Let me see here. Yeah, I think the Masoretic will just have Yahuah there. So let me see here. Genesis 7:16. Yeah. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as Alahim had commanded him, and Yahuah shut him in.
Mm-hmm.
The King James has all caps there for Lord. So This is where you got to be careful with the modern versions. The modern versions started putting, they didn't do the all caps anymore. So people have a hard time finding where it's actually Yahuah and not Adonai and all that. So that's where it gets confusing. So, but what it's showing here is that the word of Yahuah is the same person as Yahuah, is showing that the word of Yahuah covered the door of the ark. So that's the reason I wrote that one down. So, the Septuagint, this is how we get the connection here. See, the Masoretic only has Yahuah, interestingly enough. But if you go to the Septuagint, it has the compound name of Yahuah Aluah there. How do I know this? Because in the Greek, it's not just one word. You have kurios then theos in Genesis 7:16. So the Septuagint, pair that with the Targum is saying the same person that the Septuagint is mentioning is the word of Yahuah, essentially. So yeah, you'll notice that sometimes, guys, where the Masoretic leaves out Alahim or Aluah after Yahuah. Sometimes it leaves it out, and it's harder to see this title of Yahuah, Aluah, Yahuah, Alahim compound name. Sometimes it's not there in the Masoretic. So let's see here. Okay, it says here, Genesis 9:12-13, it says, and we're in the pseudo-Jonathan still here. So it says here, the LXX says me, which is interesting. So it's the father being referenced here, says me. Targum pseudo-Jonathan says my word. So it says here, this is how it would read from verses 12-13 in the pseudo-Jonathan. It says, and Yahuah said, this is the sign of the covenant which I established between my word and between you and every living soul that is with you unto the generation of the world. Then you continue the next verse. It says, I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of the covenant between my word and the earth. So even way back in Genesis 9, we have Yahusha here being referenced that he's the one that the covenant is with between Yahuah and mankind. It's actually between Yahusha and mankind with the rainbow. So for those out there that believe Yahusha didn't pre-exist the New Testament time period, even these rabbis who wrote the Targums would disagree with you. As far as with who the word of Yahuah person is, the first century understood that the word of Yahuah person that was to come and take on flesh and become the Messiah pre-existed from the beginning. That was not even a debate back then. That was not, for most people, that was not even a debate. Even the Pharisees understood that. The problem was when Yahusha came to earth as that person, the very word of Yahuah they claimed to believe in their Targums came to earth, said, guess what, guys? Hey, I'm here. I'm the other half of the two powers in heaven. Hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. The word has taken on flesh. Hey, I'm here. I'm the bread of life and all that. They rejected that same word of Yahuah in their own Targums. The same word of Yahuah that their own Targums talked about. So that's what really happened when Yahusha came and took on flesh. That's the whole historical context of this, is that the rabbinical people of that time had no problem understanding that the word of Yahuah was to take on flesh, become the Messiah. They actually believed that back then. Now, Judaism doesn't believe that today, but that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother topic, how they've degenerated. The rabbinical faith of theirs has degenerated to what it is today. But they were a lot more on target when you talk about messianic prophecies way back when, before Yahusha came to earth. A lot of these prophecies we know of, they knew that it had to be fulfilled by the Messiah. So it says here, now we're at Genesis 16:13. In the pseudo-Jonathan again, it says here, and she gave thanks before Yahuah, whose word spoke to her. And thus says, you are he who lives and are eternal, who sees but are not seen. For she said, for behold, here is revealed the splendor of the esteem of Yahuah after a vision. Now, if you go to the Jerusalem one, which I'm about to go to right now, that was from the pseudo-Jonathan one. We're going to look at the Jerusalem Targum version of that same exact verse. Okay, it says here, so see here. So the Jerusalem Targum will say here, and Hagar gave thanks and prayed in the name of the word of Yahuah. who had been manifested to her, saying, Baruch be you, Aluah. She's calling Yahusha Alahim, the living one of all ages, who has looked upon my affliction. For she said, behold, you are manifested also unto me, even as you were manifested to Sarah, my mistress. So in their own traditions, they understood that this word of Yahuah was the one true living Alahim, basically. In their own traditions, they understood this. So that's why it's worded like that. In their own Torahs, they understood this. So again, I think in the Septuagint, if I'm not mistaken, it says Yahuah Aluah in Genesis 16:13. So you can see this connection a lot easier, guys. If you have a Septuagint in front of you, you can see it a lot easier. Because the Bretons will say, and she called the name of Yahuah Aluah, who spoke to her. So basically what the Targums are doing here multiple times is equating Yahuah Alahim or Yahuah Aluah as this person, the word of Yahuah, as the same person. So hopefully you're seeing what I'm talking about here. So let's see here. So now we're going to go to the Targum Onkelos in Genesis 28, verse 20. Genesis 20:20 in the Targum Onkelos says, and Yaakov vowed a vow, saying, if the word of Yahuah will be my help and will keep me in the way at which I go and will give me bread to eat and raiment to wear. So again, the important thing it says, if the word of Yahuah will be my help. So again, you have Yahuah Alahim or Yahuah Aluah is paraphrased as the word of Yahuah. Okay, so okay, so now we're going to go to Exodus 13, verse 8. Okay, Exodus 13, verse 8. All right. And you, let's see here. Actually, I'm on the wrong one here. So let me pick up the Pseudo-Jonathan one again. Exodus 13, verse 8. And you will instruct your son on that day, saying, this precept is on account of what the word of Yahuah did for me in miracles and wonders in bringing me forth from Egypt. Whoa. Okay. So Exodus 13:8 is saying the word of Yahuah brought him out of Egypt, or brought Israel out of Egypt, right? Interesting. Now, what's even more interesting, if you look at the Septuagint in the same verse, it says Yahuah Aluah brought him out of Egypt, or brought them out of Egypt. Oh no, my bad. Okay, so this is a little bit trickier. You have to go to verse 8 and then verse 9 in the LXX. So to show you the context that it is calling Yahuah Aluah the word of Yahuah. So verse 8 will just have Yahuah, but you have to continue into verse 9. So the LXX would say in that same verse, and going into verse 9 as well, it would say, You shall tell your son in that day, saying, therefore, Yahuah dealt thus with me as I was going out of Egypt, and that it shall be a sign a sign upon your hand, and a memorial before your eyes, not between your eyes, before your eyes, that the law of Yahuah may be in your mouth, for with a strong hand Yahuah Aluah brought you out of Egypt. So again, Yahuah Aluah equals the word of Yahuah there. So now Numbers 22:18. So Numbers chapter 22, verse 18 in the Pseudo-Jonathan. Okay. Says here, the well which the fathers of the world, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, oh my bad, that's 21 there. Okay, 22, verse 18. And Balaam answered the servants of Balak and said, if Balak would give me out of his treasury a house full of silver and gold, I have no power to transgress the decree of the word of Yahuah my Aluah. Wow. Why that's important is calling the word of Yahuah Balaam's mighty one. So when he's talking to Yahuah this whole time in the book of Numbers, right? This verse in the Targum is saying that the word of Yahuah is the one who is his Alahim. That means the person he's talking to that's commanding him, as Yahuah goes to him in dreams, he's calling that person the word of Yahuah. And again, in this verse in the Septuagint, in verse 18, it would have in the Greek kurios and theos together. So Yahuah Aluah or Yahuah Alahim. Okay. Now we're going to go to Numbers 27:16. Let's see, Numbers 27:16. Numbers 27:16. Here in the Pseudo-Jonathan, it says here, may the word of Yahuah, who rules over the souls of men, and by whom have been given the inspiration of the spirit of all flesh, appoint a trustworthy man over the congregation. Wow. Who rules over all spirits of flesh and gives inspiration of the spirit. So that means the Ruach HaKadosh has to be his spirit.
Mhm.
Interesting. And it's also saying that he gave spirits to all flesh. Now, who gives Adam his breath? Yahuah, right? Well, it's saying the word of Yahuah did that here. So very interesting to me. And the Septuagint here, again, in the Greek would have kurios and theos together here as a compound name. So Yahuah Aluah. Okay, so the Septuagint would read as Yahuah the Aluah of spirits and all flesh. So that's one difference you'll notice where the Septuagint is beneficial, is that the Masoretic and even the Targum seem to want to take out of spirits, or they want to combine spirits with flesh to make you think that it's just saying he's only the mighty one of our spirits, but they don't want you to think that, for some reason they have a problem with, it seems like they have a problem with us understanding that Yahuah is even the Aluah who the demons have to obey and the fallen angels have to obey. They are under him and they can't transgress against his command. So I think they purposely changed this text here, because you'll see in the Septuagint's the only one that reads it that way. So I believe there was a little tampering going on there with that verse in verse 16, in my personal opinion. So let me see here. I think the last one we have here is Deuteronomy 8, verse 20. So Deuteronomy 8, verse 20 says, as the peoples which, okay, so I think I gotta change. Okay, let's see here. Oh, as the peoples which Yahuah your Aluah disperses before you, so will you perish, because you were not obedient to the word of Yahuah your Aluah. So it's calling the word of Yahuah their mighty one, or their deity. Okay. And again, the Septuagint, that same exact verse says Yahuah Aluah. Okay. So again, I think it's very clear that even these targums are making it very clear who this person, Yahuah Alahim, Yahuah Aluah is. But if you guys are still on the fence, I have something historical that might kind of put a fork in it here and kind of be, I think, the last dagger here to show you guys that it has to be the case. So I believe there was a conspiracy after Yahusha died. And I believe once he died, ascended, resurrected, and ascended to heaven, the rabbinical anti-Yahusha scribes, or even you could say the Kabbalistic rabbis, were not, they had to find a way to get rid of people understanding Yahusha is this one in the Tanakh, this version of the Father who interacts with the patriarchs in the Tanakh. So what did they do? They do what the devil does. If you can't beat them, replace them. So I would call this the highest, biggest example of replacement theology, or you could even say identity theft. Okay. In the Kabbalah religion, they have someone called Metatron. Okay. According to their own religion, I'm not making this stuff up. You can find this on the angelology section on fandom. Okay. So according to certain extra biblical texts that are Kabbalistic in nature and Jewish traditional texts out there, this Metatron, who I truly believe is in nature, the definition of an anti-Mashiach being, because he's in place of Yahusha. Okay. He literally is a counterfeit Yahusha. I'm just going to read a little bit about who this messenger supposedly is in their religion, which, by the way, there's no proof that there's actually a person called Metatron or that there's an angel called Metatron. It's in their Kabbalistic lore, just FYI. So notice what name they give to him. Yahoel. What does that sound like? Yahuah Alahim put together. Now, supposedly this character is mentioned in the pseudepigraphal book of the Apocalypse of Abraham. He's a mighty angel sent to guide Abraham. Yeah, and supposedly he introduces himself as a being that possesses the power of the quote unquote, in their tradition, what they call the unspeakable name, whose name is like that of the Creator himself or the Father himself, as the angel nearest to Elohim, or perhaps as a manifestation of the power of Elohim himself. So this Yahuel guy is said to be also the heavenly choir master. I find that interesting. Kind of hints around what type of spirit might actually be behind this being, who really at one point probably was the choir master, Satan, right? Kind of makes you wonder what principalities behind this fake angel. Okay. The one who teaches the angels they're him, who has control over the threats and attacks of the reptiles. Interesting. Like the serpents. The messenger with the chief task of protecting and watching over Israel. So some Kabbalists believe this Metatron character would be Michael, or they believe Enoch. A lot of the Kabbalists believe Enoch became this Metatron angel. So depending on which Kabbalistic rabbi you would talk to, they have two different belief systems. The reason I wanted to bring this up, though, I find it extremely interesting. I don't think it's a coincidence that they gave him this name. Why would they give him this name? Well, my conspiracy theorist senses are tingling here. If Yahusha was Yahuah Alahim, wouldn't they want to replace him completely? If they're trying to replace him, so they would give his name away to someone else. And I believe that's what actually happened. I believe these Kabbalistic anti-Yahusha rabbis replaced him in their religion, replaced Malach Yahuah and every other title we know that is Yahusha's, and gave these titles to this fake angel that doesn't even exist, Metatron. I do believe, though, there's a real principality behind this Metatron character, and I believe it's a fallen messenger. I personally believe Satan is using this alias of Metatron to get worship. That's my conspiracy theory. But anyway, I just thought I would give you guys some historical backing up to this, and that even in their own religion, they believe this. Unfortunately, this Metatron character is a counterfeit Yahusha that was given Yahusha's actual pre-incarnate name. And he's not just a replacement Yahusha. The biggest difference that I explain to people is how we know that Yahusha is not Metatron, because there's tons of brothers and sisters out there that are deceived, that actually hold on or don't even know they hold to a Metatron theology of who Yahusha is. Because let me explain this. I just want to end with this, guys. If you truly believe Yahusha is a lesser Yahuah, not equal, that is Kabbalistic Metatron theology of itself. And it's important to understand this. And I truly hope that this study will help you understand that the rabbis, they distorted this truth of the pre-incarnate promised Messiah being known as Yahuah Aluah in the Tanakh and Yahuah Alahim. They have perverted this and replaced him with Metatron so that people would be deceived. I believe this is one of the tools that the devil's using, that when the anti-Messiah comes, people already have a false idea of who Yahusha is. And it's going to be 10 times easier for the beast to deceive people, because already people are, in essence, they're combining Yahusha with Metatron. And I see it all over the internet. It doesn't take much. You go to any Messianic Jewish website that talks about Metatron, and they're trying to say, oh, Yeshua is Metatron in the Kabbalah and all that. It's very dangerous, guys. It's very dangerous. So I recommend that you guys really give this study a chance and really pray about it to Yahuah if you're still on the fence about all the proof we've given today that Yahuah has led me to give you guys today. I mean, I even gave you guys historical proof of my theory of why this Metatron character seems so similar to Yahusha's, because he is a counterfeit version of him. He is a replacement theology of him. And just like Yahuah in Christianity has been replaced by this demiurge, evil God of the Old Testament concept, just like Gnosticism has been used subtly to get people deceived into worshiping the raw almighty one, the same thing has happened in this Messianic Jewish movement. So many people don't even realize they received another Messiah. And the reason I say that is Metatron is a lesser Yahuah who supposedly is just a regular angel. So now you're getting deceived into angel worship, okay? So it's not just, and again, I know there's well-meaning brothers and sisters out there that are saying, well, the scriptures say he's lesser, but the scriptures don't say that. If you actually look in context in the Brit Hadashah, it's claiming he's equal all the time. The only time he says he's lesser is in his humanity. It's the only time he says he's lesser is when he took on flesh. That's the only time. So I really encourage brothers and sisters, please pray about this. This is very dangerous. And again, the lesser Yahuah concept, you cannot find pre-rabbinical period. You will not be able to find that belief system before the early Talmudic rabbinical period. It seems to have started at that point, once Yahusha left, ascended, and all that, because they did not want to receive him as the word of Yahuah. So they created their own counterfeit of the word of Yahuah out of spite, it seems like. So anyway, so hopefully that this message was a baraka for all you guys. And I really hope our brothers and sisters, you know, those that Yahuah is opening your eyes of, that you would see this and repent. I do believe it's a big issue. I do believe this lesser Yahuah thing is a huge deception. It's a huge deception. So I pray that those that were meant to hear this repent and understand that they are truly one. They are one being. They are equal. And so thank you guys for joining in. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the new moon. And see you next time, y'all. Shalom, Mishpach.